Welcome to Cinema Gulp, everybody. I'm Ben.
I'm Scotty R37.
I'm Karate Action Ben.
And I'm John. And this is our favorite R-rated action film.
Welcome, everybody, to Cinema Gulp. It's been a while since we've done a best of. I think the last time it was me, John, and Ben doing best R-rated comedies. We're back doing R-rated action movies. Now, this one's hard, guys. This one is hard because action expands to so many different things, as does comedy, but I don't think quite as much. So we're going to go around and everyone's going to talk about their top 5 R-rated action movies of all time. We would love, we'll get to this later, some comments below, because I know there's going to be people from other countries throwing in movies that are not necessarily R-rated here. But why don't we start with Scotty R37, starting from number 5, going all the way down to number 1, everybody. Scotty, what's your number 5 R-rated action movie of all time?
My number 5 action movie of all time is Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Ooh, okay.
Cyberdyne Systems in the flesh. I love that movie. I saw it in theaters, and it was the first time that I saw explosions that big, and just, it was badass action. It's the first of 2 Schwarzenegger films on my list. I think that he informed my action tastes at a very young age. So that is my number 5, is Terminator 2. Just because it is iconic. And I think it's the practical and the CGI crossing over. It was like the beginning of a new era. At least that's how I took it. So that's my number 5.
This was the first R-rated film that I told my mom, I do not care that I am not old enough to see this. I am going to find my way into this theater. Before that, I would sneak in without telling her. I'd go see whatever R-rated film and not really tell her, come up with a PG option that I went to see. This was the one I said, I don't care what you think, Mom. I am going to see this R-rated movie.
Well, and now when I revisit it, I do go to the extended cut that has sort of the glitchy T-1000 and like all of the Kyle Reese flashback or dream sequence, pardon me. Like, I do enjoy the extended cut, but when I saw it in theaters, it was OG theatrical cut, opening weekend. I think I did a book report on it, and I never read the book. Well, and again, a titan of the action genre at the height of his game, at the height of his superstardom, really. Cameron's amazing as a director, but I wouldn't say he's, well, yeah, I guess he's primarily an action director. Titanic's an action movie, I guess. But no, Arnold Schwarzenegger being such a mainstay during the 80s with Commando and Raw Deal and Predator. And
well, what about, I mean, think about Eddie Furlong's filmography. You have Terminator 2 and
I know you're pointing out how this is an amazing, awesome, kick-ass Arnold movie, but there is another iconic action star in this film, Linda Hamilton.
True story.
Elevated it for all the ladies out there. Elevated what a female action hero, not just a female action hero, an action hero in general. She's one of the best. I mean, probably in the top 5 action heroes, you have Ellen Ripley and Sarah Connor. There could be 3 other guys probably, but those 2 are in that top 5 most likely.
Yeah, and Sarah Connor, the thing that's so iconic about her is how unhinged she is. You know, like, she's not traditional. She's not really, she's heroic, but she's more like a survivor, and like some of the questionable shit she does just makes her more badass.
She totally has PTSD in that movie, man. Like, you know, not spoiler alerts, but maybe I watched the film recently too, and I had forgotten how chilling the scene is where she goes to try to assassinate Miles Dyson, and she's just like about to kill this man in cold blood in front of his family. They have no idea why, and it's just a chilling scene, but it's so good. She's so good in that movie.
The way she backs up against the wall and doesn't take her eyes off of him, and it's great performance too. Yeah. Fuck yeah, great pick, Scotty. Do you want to move on, Ben? Number 5, sir.
Well, my number 5 is not Terminator 2 Judgment Day, but we'll come back to that. Mine is 2011's The Raid. And I chose The Raid. It's the only martial arts film on my list because, in a way, martial arts films feel a little like cheating because they're so action-packed all the time. They're just by design. It was the first movie of that kind I had seen before, and by that I mean just a literal, like, non-stop action flick. You get a few moments to breathe here and there, but, I mean, once they hit the gas in that movie, it doesn't let up until the end, and I think that's awesome. a U.S. re-release with an original soundtrack by Mike Shinoda that was really good. I've not seen the original or the film with the original soundtrack, but you can't tell. Like it, I wouldn't be able to tell the difference if I didn't know otherwise. You guys are familiar with his work because I'm not super familiar with his work outside of Linkin Park. But the guy can jam. You know, the guy makes great music. It's got a very kind of like adrenaline feel to it. You know, I mean, like I love the characters in this movie. There's a million characters in the movie, and some of them you meet for 2 seconds and then they're gone, and that's okay. It works in this film, but I love the lieutenant, who I can only describe as an elderly Street Fighter's Guile. There are no Americans in this film. It's an Indonesian film. He is weirdly the most American dude in this film, and he looks like maybe Hulk Hogan's cousin. And it's never addressed, and that's okay with me. But I just think he's great. He's something else. He's fun to watch. He's not in a ton of the film, but he's like the old ass kicker, which is a trope that you know, I think over the last decade it's become more popular. Just like old dudes who can still kick ass, because you know we're all afraid of dying or something. I don't know, but hey, that's what action films are about. Like we cheat death, we rise above death. You know, but what I really dig out of the film is it's got some of the best like blade fight scenes I've ever seen. Like a lot of knife and machete fight scenes, right? Which are way more common in Asian action films than in American action films, where like guns and punching people and stuff, which is cool. You know, go America. But like a knife fight scene requires a lot of choreography, and the Raid is full of great fight choreography, great scenes. There's the one hench guy who takes on the two brothers at the end. His favorite way, like he doesn't want to use guns. He wants to kill with his hands. Like he's just an animal. He's awesome to watch. I think he really wowed people when it came out because no one was expecting anything out of that like that to come out in Indonesia. Then anything like that was coming out in America. And you know, to be honest, we like basically invented the action film. And I think what the Raid did was tell people that maybe there were more visceral ways to film fight scenes. More like you could like feel the blades going in and out of these guys when they fight. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's just really raw and it's fast and like you're out of breath when the scene's over, man. Go to the Raid. That's why you're mine. Number 5.
Action to me encompasses so many things. There's only really 3 genres of films when I really break it down: comedy, drama, and action. So things like horror often fall under action for me in the broad sense of those 3 categories. Obviously there's subcategories for all kinds of things, but since there were so many things that could fit the description of action, I limited it to just kind of that contemporary feel, kind of like a Die Hard. And because of that, I'm not including Die Hard. Die Hard is the template for what these kinds of films are, but I'm not including Die Hard because it's just everybody loves Die Hard. It's everyone's favorite film. I imagine it might be on a bunch of your guys' lists. So I'm leaving it off just to start with. But my first film, one of the earliest R-rated films that I got a chance to see, with one of the best action heroes around, Rambo. Well, First Blood. This one is First Blood, not Rambo. 1982. It's very intense when it needs to be. I think even at a young age, just that seeing this guy pushed to his limits and the way that, you know, the town was discriminating against him right off the bat over nothing. It's just like you feel all that even as a young age. You're just so much on this guy's side and hating the cops. And Brian Dennehy plays that ruthless guy just so perfectly. So when they finally start chasing him out into the woods, it was just like, for whatever age I was, and I shouldn't have been seeing this, it was the greatest thing ever. I was so in love with those scenes in the woods. And to your point, Ben, there isn't a ton. It's kind of like there's a couple scenes throughout the film, but those scenes are really impactful. And the way he has to dispatch the various cops, I mean, he's not trying to kill them, but a couple of them do get killed or very seriously injured along the way because he's fighting for his survival. My favorite movie being Aliens. I actually really do like survival films. That's kind of the way I see Aliens. Over all the different genres people like to label it with, to me, it's a survival film. And I think this is another one that fits that description. And it also had a very early Predator vibe. You know, long before Predator was a movie, him out in the woods setting the traps and kind of turning the tables and hunting the hunters felt, you know, reminiscent of Predator at an early stage. So I just have always loved First Blood. I'm not a huge fan of the sequels. In fact, the one right after Rambo First Blood Part 2 is probably my least.
It's pretty
favorite.
cheesy.
Yeah, it's pretty cheesy. But yeah, First Blood being one of my first forays into the action genre, I'll never forget it, and I still think it's a great film to this day.
I think that one of the things that makes First Blood such a tense action movie is that you're just waiting for John Rambo to explode. You know, like he's just walking through town. Brian Denny, he starts being a dick. They take him to the thing and they dry shave him. And now PTSD Tasmanian Devil. It's just going off. And you don't know what's going to happen. And you don't know when, but it's going to be awesome.
No, there is good action in it. I think the reason I just said that is because it plays itself out and ends kind of like a dramatic film, you know?
Oh, very much so. But again, it is the rooting in reality that I think John was referring to when not bringing up.
Yeah. So I chose to go the John route from the R-rated comedy one and just pick genres because I had a fucking really hard time with this. So I'm going to start with situational action that is not Die Hard. So I'm going with Speed. I love Speed. Not the drug. Never done it before. Never even seen it in real life, only on TV. Die Hard cinematographer Jean Dupont just proved out of the gate with his first movie that he can direct something nearly as good as Die Hard, just in a very different setting. I don't like when people call this Die Hard on a Bus because it's actually kind of the opposite of Die Hard in every way. There's nothing about this movie that's like Die Hard. This movie works to Keanu Reeves' strengths, where I feel they took him away from the whiny kind of trying to give him too much to do Johnny Utah, and they gave him Jack Traven, which is like a straight-laced, confident, smart, fierce, focused cop with not that much to say, just a focus, you know? And he works the best that way. Dennis Hopper, oh my God, just chewing the fuck, doing most of his acting in a room by himself, with the exception of the beginning and the end. This movie has this wonderful 3-act structure. I don't know how many times you guys have seen this or if you've seen it lately, but it's such a perfect Granted, the second act is very long, but the first act of the movie is basically this big elevator sequence. And it's very high stakes and it's intense and it's shot really well. And that music kicks in. It's so good. Then the second act obviously is very long. That's the bus. And the bus stuff is amazing. It all stands so good today. Maybe the bus jumping from one side to the next doesn't still hold up. If it ever did, they did all that stuff practically, which is insane. Keanu Reeves got under a bus for real, which is insane. The way they shot that and they rigged up those cameras is insane. Like, there's no fucking way they would do that nowadays. Just zero discussion of that ever happening. Even with a stunt person, forget your lead actor actually getting underneath a bus for a shot. But and then the third act is probably the weakest part because you almost want it to end when the bus situation ends, but it does go to a train and it's a violent. The movie kind of escalates to extra hokiness by that point, but I love the hokiness. I find this movie very rewatchable. I've been rewatching this since I got it on VHS back in, I want to say, like 95 or 96. I still love it. I think Jack Traven is a very understated action hero, and this may not be the last time you see Keanu Reeves on my list. So number 5 for me is Speed. I love it.